Hello everyone, welcome back to the weekly analysis, the weekly review of the coronavirus evolution. This week we have slightly modified the slideshow just to make it shorter. So this is business as usual. The curve is not changing dramatically, and the area under it remains almost constant. So the amount of people that it will be under any circumstances will be about the same. So now we are having a first spike, and it's likely that we want to smoothen it down. But anyway, the amount of people that will be affected will remain nearly the same. The fatalities are computed this time, so we have the effects on the different population age, and that crossed with the different pyramids. It is driving to numbers like those. So in Spain, the number of fatalities is expected to be under 100,000, so maybe 6,000 or so. So probably it's good enough. And then we can see that most of the countries, they will have a substantial increase over the standard, their standard fatality rates. This is the standard fatality rate in Spain, so over 430,000 people per year. And this year we will have to add an overhead, so we will likely reach the 500,000 figure, but this is what happened this year. Later on we will review why was this happening. So the weekly exercise again, so reconstructing the infection curve from the other two ones, what we can see is that the US, for instance, the curve was matching, was fit until 10th of April, when suddenly they detached. This may happen because several factors: under-reporting of infection, or the infection, the infected people were not accounted before, and now they are changing the method of counting the deceased person. So we have to review that and track it over the next weeks. What we can clearly see is that not all people are attending the hospital, and so many people are discharged, or they are not tracked after the infection, so they are not in the recovery pile. And this one is not the only country where it happens. For instance, in UK, the curves may match, but the parameters are really worth a discussion. We'll see later on. But the curves somehow they match, but the parameters don't do at all. In Germany, now we will compare three different countries: Germany, France, and Spain, and Italy, and those have different behavior. So Germany looks like they have everything under control. The curves are somehow matching. There are usually in all countries delays on the way they report, and then you have to add and subtract, but overall the curves are matching. We see a slight increase, and it depends if this is going back to attach to the infection. That will mean that the fatality remains constant. But if something happens like that is detaching, maybe there is an underreporting, which may happen. In Italy, it happens that the infection and the fatality curve, they do match perfectly, almost perfectly. So that means that somehow maybe the infections are not these figures, but at least is statistically significant, because it's very representative of what's going on. And in the other hand, we have that the recovery, so maybe just 40% of the population is accounted for after recovery. So some people maybe are discharged and they are not recorded. So this is another thing that could be interesting to review in the way when they discharge, if they account or not. Another country is Spain. Maybe we have 60% of people that they are recovered and are clearly tracked. All the other, we don't know what's happening with the other 40% missing, but it's likely to happen that those people are discharged and they are not tracked, or they are not reported. However, the fatality curve and the infection curve, they do match perfectly. So it's likely to have a or statistically significant amount of population following that. Then we have the French curve. The French curve, it follows almost the same trend, and the reported in blue, it perfectly matches the reconstructed curve from the fatalities, and we have also a 50-50% of people attending in the hospital being reported as recovered, and the other 50%, I don't know how are they tracked, but they are so far not present in the list. Then there are two other countries like Taiwan and Singapore. So Taiwan and Singapore, this report is from the last week we see, so let me skip it. And then there is South Korea. South Korea, it's clearly underreporting the recovered. Those two curves never match. So it's possibly happening something here, and some people are not tracked after discharging from the hospital. And then the other thing is that it's absolutely impossible. There is no parameter that can fit the fatality curve against the infection curve. So either there is a gap of a few 20,000 infections there, or the fatality rate is way lower and should be about this, which is somehow unbelievable. But we have to really dig deeper into the data to guess what's going on. And overall, over the world, when you add all those big numbers, curves are matching, and you have about 50% of the people which are once recovered, they are not accounted. So people are diagnosed, but they are not tracked at a given point. So what we were discussing last week was about the overwhelmed healthcare system. And we saw that there was a trend. And in fact, the two countries here together, Germany and France, I just simply removed them and tracked it in split boxes. Why? Because they really work in a dramatically different way. One has a shorter stay, while the other has a slightly longer stay, but the fatality rate in France this week is about 22%. It's incredible. It's something that to match the curve, the parameters are so freakingly high that it warns you on what's going on. So it's likely that the system is completely overwhelmed over there. In the other countries, so Italy and Spain are way above the expected fatality rate of 3%, which was reported even by China or Taiwan, Singapore. They are in 0 point something, which may be, and I wish that is the real IFR, the real infection rate. But the case fatality rate, the people attending in the hospital and being found to be positive of coronavirus, COVID, it's so far terrific. So far in Spain, we were here 2 weeks ago, so it's business as usual. Last week we saw this plot. This week we see this, and that's why I would like to point out what's going on with the UK. The UK has it's a completely outlier here. So they have a time to die of about 8 days, which is absolutely in line against all, or when compared with all the other countries. So it's roughly 7 days since the people are admitted and they are discharged, or they are discharged, they are declared dead in hospital. And then the hospital stay, it's absolutely in line with the top healthcare systems. So 24, 21, 20 days. Here we see the countries which have overwhelmed healthcare systems. But UK, in order to match, the parameter has to be roughly at about 600% in order to have the fatality curve matching the infection curve. So either there is a factor of 100 or at least on under reporting for the disease, or the infection rate are way much higher. But this is really to be analyzed on what's going on in the UK, because up to now there is a very small amount of data, and I have no track in the past days. But this entering this way, so it's really worth a bit of time. So the clinical course in this way, we see that people get infected at that time, and it becomes infections very shortly after, and they remain infectious for well over 3 weeks after, and then the symptoms appear about a week after, and in 2 weeks either they die or they go into the recovery path. So and this is it happens all of a sudden. So during the second week, either they go into the ICU or either they recover. Well, what's going on in Spain? For instance, if you see the official log of the official fatality log from to evaluate the population, you see that we had an incredibly flat winter with almost no fatalities recorded, and was absolutely under the nominal. So we were expecting to be on a nominal scenario, but in fact this winter was so mild, so good, that people were not having any effects of the flu, or because of the wet weather, or even had an incredible Christmas so far. So we accumulated, let's say, a bag of 5,000 people that were expected to die, but they didn't. Instead, the coronavirus was being prepared, let's say, about this day, and from that on kicked in and provoked this exponential growth. So it's about 20,000 until it was controlled, because here the lockdown was declared on roughly on 15th. So this is the effect of the lockdown. So it was stopping it smoothly, it was stopping it. And so far, the coronavirus caused, according to this computation, about 25,000, while the stated figure on the 12th of April, which is where this curve ends, the declared official curve by coronavirus, it's about 7,000 people under this figure. So we are underreporting about 25% of, and we don't know where this lies. So we have 7,000 people that we don't know why they died all of a sudden, if it was by coronavirus or not. And this is probably happening in many other countries, but data is missing. So far the scenario was to be on nominal, to have no variation with regarding our prediction of people, of dead people. So overall was about 1,100, 1,500 people per day. And here we have a trend, accumulated trend of over 5,000 people missing, which were not dead because of such a very, very gentle winter. But coronavirus is really a terrible, is really getting over this good winter. And so far the data is way more complex now, because we have many factors. When you aggregate it, it's rather meaningful. When you disaggregate and you have every country counting in a different way, you see that there are terrible ways to estimate, and you never can make a very trustworthy guess. The surface under the curve, it will remain constant whatever we do, because so far nothing has been found, any vaccine or any drug. The infection curve so far was heavily being modified by all countries which established measures of social distancing and wearing masks and washing hands and creating those healthy habits. And of course, open lockdown removal, we have to expect a rebound in about, let's say, 15 days, as we saw in the curve, in the fatality curve from Spain. So there is a big gap on the trend. And then if you want to consolidate, it requires about a month. So I don't know how many exercises we need to do in order to make immune most of the population, which is about 75%, which is required for such a disease. But this is one of the key points. So far, so good. So that's all for this week. Thank you very much for listening.